There are some cases that, no matter how much time passes, continue to haunt an entire nation. Today, we'll explore together one of the most mysterious murders in modern Finnish history. On the morning of June 5th, 1960, at the peaceful shore of Lake Bodom in the city of Espoo, 3 teenagers would never wake up again. And the sole survivor, 44 years later, would become a suspect. This is the story of the Lake Bodom massacre. June 4th, 1960. An ordinary Saturday of the Finnish summer. 4 young friends decided to go camping along the shore of Lake Bodom near Oita Manor. 2 girls, Maila Irmeli Björklund and Anja Tuulikki Mäki, both 15 years old, and their boyfriends, Seppo Antero Boisman and Nils Wilhelm Gustafsson, both 18 years old. They arrived by motorcycle, bringing tents and food, excited for a night outdoors by the lake. 4 young people, full of life. No one could have imagined this would be the final night for 3 of them. Their camping spot was quite remote, far from residential areas. As night fell, the 4 young friends crawled into their tent to sleep, unaware that someone, or something, was lurking out there. No one knows exactly what happened during those hours, but what's certain is, a bloody tragedy unfolded. The attacker didn't enter the tent. Instead, they attacked the victims from outside, using a knife and an unidentified blunt object, possibly a rock, stabbing and bludgeoning through the tent fabric. Around 6 a.m., a group of boys birdwatching nearby saw the tent collapse, and a tall, blond man walking away from the scene. At 11 a.m. that same day, a carpenter named Esko Oiva Johansson passed by and discovered the bodies. He immediately called the police. The scene that police witnessed made even seasoned investigators shudder. 3 of the 4 teenagers were dead. Maila Irmeli Björklund, 15 years old. Anja Tuulikki Mäki, 15 years old. Seppo Boisman, 18 years old. The sole survivor was Nils Gustafsson, 18 years old. He was found lying outside the tent, with broken facial bones and multiple stab wounds. Later, Gustafsson recounted that he had caught a glimpse of an attacker dressed in black with bright red eyes coming toward them. What's particularly noteworthy is how the killer treated Maila Björklund, Gustafsson's girlfriend. She was found lying on top of the tent, undressed from the waist down, and she was the most brutally tortured, stabbed multiple times even after death. Meanwhile, the other 2 victims were killed with less brutality. This led many to question, was this a sexually motivated crime? Or did the killer have a personal grudge against Björklund? The investigation into the Lake Bodom massacre began. But from the very start, Finnish police made critical errors. Mistakes that would later cause this case to reach a dead end. First, police failed to properly secure the crime scene. They allowed crowds of officers and curious onlookers to trample all over the area, destroying crucial evidence. Even worse, they called in soldiers to search for missing items around the lake. Dozens of people walked everywhere, destroying footprints and obliterating traces. And about those missing items, this is one of the biggest mysteries of the case. The killer had taken the victim's motorcycle keys, but left the motorcycles behind. Some clothing items, Gustafsson's shoes. About 500 meters from the scene, police found some clothing items hidden, including Gustafsson's shoes. But the murder weapons, the knife and blunt object used to bludgeon the victims' heads, were never found. Why would the killer take motorcycle keys but not take the motorcycles? Why hide Gustafsson's shoes? Is this the behavior of a madman? Or someone deliberately trying to mislead the investigation? Over several decades, Finnish police pursued many different suspects. Let's examine each one. Suspect 1. Valdemar Gillström, the angry kiosk keeper. Carl Valdemar Gillström, a local man who ran a small kiosk in Oita, and he was notorious for hating campers. Local residents said Gillström was violent. He would often cut down campers' tents, throw rocks at anyone passing his street. Many people feared him. On the morning after the massacre, some claimed they saw Gillström returning from the Lake Bodom area, but they were too afraid to report it to police. There were rumors that Gillström had confessed his crime to several people, but police considered him mentally disturbed and didn't trust those confessions. They also found no physical evidence linking him to the case. In 1969, 9 years after the massacre, Gillström drowned in Lake Bodom itself. Many believe it was suicide. Was he carrying guilt? Or was it simply a tragic accident? In 2006, a book was released with a detailed theory that Gillström was the killer. The book also claimed police had overlooked much important evidence due to language barriers and other reasons. But to this day, there's no conclusive proof. Suspect 2. Hans Assmann, the mysterious man. Hans Assmann, a German-born, naturalized Finnish citizen living a few kilometers from Lake Bodom's shore. On the morning of June 6, 1960, one day after the massacre, Assmann appeared at a hospital in Helsinki with blood-stained clothes. Blood on a man's clothes, one day after 3 teenagers were murdered near his home. This sounds very suspicious, doesn't it? But Assmann had an alibi. He claimed he was elsewhere on the night of the murders, and the police believed him. Or at least, they didn't have enough evidence to charge him. A series of popular books promoted a theory that Assmann committed the Bodom killings and was involved in other murders. He was a suspect in 5 other cases. Notably, before dying in the late 1990s, Assmann confessed to one murder on his deathbed, but not the Lake Bodom massacre. Assmann moved to live in Sweden and died there. Did he take secrets to his grave? Suspect 3. Pentti Soininen, the questionable confessor. In the mid-1960s, a man named Pentti Soininen, known for violent tendencies, confessed to a fellow inmate that he was responsible for the Lake Bodom massacre. Sounds like the case was solved, right? But wait. Soininen was only about 14 years old at the time of the murders. Could a 14-year-old boy single-handedly overpower and kill 3 older teenagers while seriously injuring another? Many doubted this possibility. Was Soininen falsely boasting to gain notoriety in prison? Or was there something darker behind this confession? To date, there's no concrete evidence placing Soininen at the scene. And then, after nearly 44 years, in March 2004, an event shocked all of Finland. Nils Gustafsson, the sole survivor who had endured the pain of losing his friends and girlfriend, was suddenly arrested. He was suspected of being the killer. The Finnish National Bureau of Investigation announced the case was solved based on new forensic analysis. Modern DNA technology had yielded new findings. The prosecution's theory went like this. Gustafsson was drunk and excluded from the tent. In a fit of rage, he attacked Seppo Boisman, Anja's boyfriend. During the fight, Gustafsson's jaw was broken, but this triggered a fury, and Gustafsson killed all 3 friends. Afterward, he hid items to make it look like there was a thief. He even injured himself further to appear like a victim. Finally, he returned to the tent, took off his shoes, and pretended to be unconscious. The most crucial evidence? Gustafsson's shoes. Those shoes were found 450 meters from the scene, hidden. DNA analysis showed they had blood from all 3 victims, but no blood from Gustafsson himself. The prosecution argued, if Gustafsson was injured at the same time as the others, why wasn't his blood on the shoes? This proves he was injured at a different time, after committing the murders. The prosecution also presented 2 birdwatchers identified Gustafsson as the tall blonde man at the scene. Someone overheard Gustafsson make what sounded like a confession. 10 years after the incident, Gustafsson allegedly boasted to a woman about his guilt. The trial began on August 4, 2005. All of Finland was watching. The defense responds. Gustafsson's lawyer refuted each point. About Gustafsson's injuries, he had severe facial bone fractures and multiple stab wounds. With such serious injuries, how could he have killed 3 people, especially Seppo Boisman, a healthy 18-year-old? About the shoes, there are many explanations for why Gustafsson's blood wasn't on the shoes. Perhaps the real killer took Gustafsson's shoes to wear, then hid them. About witness testimony, 44 years later, human memory can be faulty, and rumors about confessions had no clear evidence. Most importantly, what was the motive? Why would Gustafsson want to kill his girlfriend and 2 close friends? The prosecution couldn't provide a convincing motive. October 7, 2005. The verdict was announced. Nils Gustafsson, not guilty on all charges. The court explained, the prosecution's evidence was inconclusive. There was no clear motive for such a serious crime. And after 45 years, certainty about the truth was impossible. The state of Finland had to compensate Gustafsson 44,900 euros for mental suffering during his remand period. But the story doesn't end there. Over many decades, countless theories and rumors have emerged around the Lake Bodom massacre. Theory 1. Undiscovered serial killer. Some believe the killer was a serial criminal operating in the area at that time. There were several similar unsolved cases in Finland during the 1960s. Could there have been a predator stalking young campers? And after Bodom, did this person disappear or die? Theory 2. Sexually motivated crime. The way Maila Björklund was treated, undressed, tortured more than the others, led many to believe this was a sexually motivated crime. Perhaps the killer had been stalking the group of young friends, targeting Björklund, and killed the others just to eliminate witnesses? Theory 3. An unplanned encounter. Some suggest the group of friends met someone that night, perhaps an acquaintance or stranger. The encounter became tense and led to violence. This could explain why there were no signs of prolonged struggle. The victims may have been attacked while sleeping and trusting the attacker. Theory 4. A victim's parent. There are unconfirmed rumors that the father of one of the victims might have been involved. This theory suggests he disapproved of his child's relationship and acted in a fit of rage. However, there's no evidence supporting this theory, and it's mostly just speculation. Theory 5. The bright red eyes. Gustafsson mentioned seeing an attacker with bright red eyes. Some believe this wasn't a description of a human, but something supernatural. In Finnish folklore, there are stories of forest spirits and supernatural creatures. Some locals believe the Lake Bodom area is cursed. Of course, this is a theory without scientific basis, but it shows how deeply the case has embedded itself in the Finnish psyche. The Lake Bodom massacre has become part of Finnish culture. A famous Finnish metal band took the name Children of Bodom. Many films, books, and documentaries have been made about this case. The Lake Bodom area remains a tourist spot today, but with a haunting atmosphere. Many come there to remember the victims or search for the truth. For the families of the 3 victims, the pain never healed. They lost their children, their siblings, in a brutal way, and never received justice. Maila Irmeli Björklund, Anja Tuulikki Mäki, and Seppo Boisman. 3 names that Finns never forget. 3 teenagers with their whole future ahead of them, taken in one horrific night. More than 60 years have passed since that fateful night at Lake Bodom, and we still don't know who the killer was. Was it Valdemar Gillström, the angry man with questionable confessions? Was it Hans Assmann, the mysterious man who appeared at the hospital with blood-stained clothes? Was it Pentti Soininen, the confessor who was too young to be believed? Or was it Nils Gustafsson, the sole survivor who was declared innocent but still suspected by many? Or was it someone entirely different, a nameless predator we'll never find? The answer may have died with time. All main suspects have passed away. The evidence was destroyed from the beginning, and memories have faded after more than 6 decades. But one thing is certain. On that summer night in 1960, something terrible happened at Lake Bodom. 4 young friends went camping. 3 never returned home. And for the families, for the investigators who spent their careers on this case, for the entire nation of Finland, the question still haunts. Who killed at Lake Bodom? Perhaps we'll never know. If you enjoyed this video and would like to watch more mysterious topics, please subscribe to our channel. Goodbye, and see you again.